What is up, everybody? It is a gloomy, rainy Tuesday here in Chicago, but the drama in Port Charles is bringing enough heat to keep us all. Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we have to talk about the absolute tragedy that just went down with Portia and Isaiah. Let's just get right into it, because my mind is completely blown. And honestly, I am still sitting here staring at my screen just trying to process what the writers just did to us. Like, what were they thinking? Who actually believes this is going to end well for anyone involved? We all knew that Curtis Ashford was on a massive warpath about Jordan's hit-and-run crash. We saw him looking at Jordan taking off her bandages, looking at her injuries in the mirror, and we knew he was going to do something stupid. But I don't think any of us, and I mean literally none of us, saw it escalating to this level of absolute devastation. I am honestly a bit tired today from covering all the messy subplots on this show, but this one woke me right up. Because they didn't just ruin a date night. They ruined lives. They actually ruined lives. So let's set the scene, and I mean really set the scene. Because the contrast is what makes this so painful. A few episodes ago, we saw Isaiah defending his innocence to Portia. He told her straight up that he was not going to frame himself for something he didn't do. Yes, he had a scratch on his SUV. Yes, he got some repairs done. Hey, admitted he was acting cagey with the cops because he knew exactly how bad it looked. A parking blunder looks exactly like a hit-and-run sideswipe if you squint hard enough. And Isaiah knew the PCPD would absolutely try to nail him to the wall for it. Portia believed him. Portia trusted him completely. And they decided to just take a breath, step away from the chaos of the hospital and the relentless investigations, and just have a romantic night out, just the two of them. They were dressed up, they were smiling. The lighting in the restaurant was all dim and romantic. They were finally having a moment of peace. They were talking about their future, probably thinking about the baby, just living this tiny bubble of happiness. And it was beautiful. It was actually a really beautiful scene for like 2 seconds, but then the flashing lights hit the window because of course they did. This is General Hospital, you guys. We can't have nice things. We can't just let two people eat a steak and drink some wine without the literal police busting through the doors. The cops swarmed the place like they were taking down a cartel boss, not a doctor having dinner. And they didn't just want to ask questions. They were there to arrest Isaiah Gannon for the hit-and-run that injured Jordan Ashford. Right there in the middle of the restaurant, everyone staring, the waiters stopping in their tracks. The humiliation, the shock, the sheer panic of it all. Isaiah standing there, probably thinking about how he literally just told Portia he would take the fall for this. And now he's being slapped in handcuffs in front of half the town. The clinking of the metal cuffs sounded so loud in that quiet restaurant. And why did this happen? Why did the cops suddenly move in when Ava Jerome Turner's hands were previously tied because of Curtis? Curtis Ashford, who decided he is the judge, jury, and executioner of Port Charles. Curtis, with all his self-righteous anger, couldn't just wait for the actual facts to come out. He was so consumed with vengeance for Jordan, so hyper-focused on making someone pay for her injuries, that he took the evidence of the scratch on Isaiah's car and basically shoved it down the PCPD's throat until they made the arrest. He pointed the finger. He pulled the trigger on this whole nightmare. He bypassed the normal investigation protocols because he just had to be the hero. And maybe I'm being too harsh on Curtis here. Okay, that sounded dramatic, but you get what I mean. He was hurting for his ex-wife. He was protective. But he was also completely, undeniably 100% wrong. So Isaiah is being dragged out in handcuffs. He is shouting that he's innocent, trying to look back at Portia, trying to make sure she is okay. But Portia's not okay. Portia is very, very not okay. The shock of seeing the man she loves being treated like a violent criminal, the sudden adrenaline spike, the sheer terror of the moment. It was too much. It was just too much for her body to handle. We see Portia clutching her stomach, her face going completely pale, the color just draining from her cheeks, and she just collapses. She just drops right there on the floor of the restaurant. And the absolute chaos that erupted in that moment was some of the most stressful television I have watched all year. People screaming, Isaiah fighting against the cops trying to get to her, pleading with them to let him help her because he's a doctor, but they won't let him. They literally drag him out the door while the woman he loves is passed out on the floor. It is gut-wrenching. It is physically painful to watch. The ambulance ride must have been a blur. We cut to General Hospital, and you know how it is when one of their own comes through those doors on a stretcher. The doctors are swarming. The nurses are frantic. Portia Robinson, one of their best, a woman who has saved so many lives in those very halls, is now the patient in critical condition. Think about the nurses who work with her every single day. Think about Elizabeth or Diane having to stand there and watch their friend and colleague bleed out on a gurney. The emotional toll on the entire hospital staff is going to be massive. They had to page the OBGYN on call. They had to run the monitors, and every single beep of that machine was just a countdown to tragedy. And the pain she was in, the writers did not hold back. The intense, agonizing physical pain she was experiencing was written all over her face. They rushed her into emergency surgery or whatever treatment room. And the audience is just sitting there. Holding our breath, we knew she was pregnant. We knew this was a high-risk situation just based on the stress alone. But I kept thinking they won't go there. They won't actually go there. But they did. They went there. The doctors come out, the scene slows down, the ambient noise fades away. The music gets all sad and heavy, and they deliver the news. Portia suffered a miscarriage. She lost the baby. She actually lost the baby. I am furious. I am so mad at the writers right now. Why do we need this level of trauma? Portia has been through the ringer. She finally finds a spark of happiness with Isaiah. They have this beautiful future ahead of them, and it is just ripped away in the span of a single commercial break. It is so dark. It is so incredibly dark, even for this show's usual style. Usually we get a close call. Usually the baby survives, but there's a complication. But no. They just ended it. They took away that innocent life just to fuel a revenge plot. And when Portia wakes up, man, give the actress an Emmy right now. Give her all the awards. Because the moment she realizes what happened, the moment the doctors tell her that her baby is gone, the grief is just suffocating. You can feel it through the screen. She is sobbing. She is broken. She is completely hollowed out, her hands clutching the hospital sheets. But you know what happens next? That grief, it immediately, and I mean immediately, morphs into pure white-hot rage. And who is that rage directed at? Curtis Ashford. Because Portia knows. She knows Curtis is the one who pushed this. She knows Curtis is the one who is so hasty, so desperate to find a scapegoat for Jordan's crash that he didn't care whose life he destroyed in the process. He didn't care about the collateral damage. He just wanted revenge. And his blind vengeance just cost Portia her child. How do you ever come back from that? How does Portia ever look at Curtis again without wanting to absolutely destroy him? She is lying in that hospital bed completely consumed by resentment and hatred for her ex-husband. And honestly, I am completely on her side. I am 100% Team Portia on this one. Curtis overstepped. He played God with people's lives, and he caused an irreversible tragedy. And let's zoom out and talk about the bigger pattern here, because this is so classic Curtis, isn't it? He always thinks he knows best. He always thinks his way is the only way. He has this massive ego when it comes to protecting the women in his life. But he's someone else. He assured Jordan he was going to make Isaiah answer for leaving the scene. He made a promise based on a completely flawed assumption, and the irony of it all is just sick. He destroyed his ex-wife, Portia's life, killed her unborn child, all in the name of avenging his other ex-wife, Jordan. The messy, toxic triangle vibes are just off the charts right now. And now an innocent man is sitting in a jail cell completely desperate, completely helpless. Isaiah is locked up in a concrete box while the woman he loves is in a hospital bed grieving the loss of their child. He can't hold her. He can't comfort her. He can't even be there for her in the darkest moment of her entire life. It is just cruel. It is a cruel, cruel storyline. Isaiah's sitting there in the PCPD, and you just know he's replaying the whole night in his head. The romantic dinner, the smiles, the sudden flashing lights. He knows he didn't hit Jordan. We know he didn't hit Jordan. And think about his career. He is a brilliant surgeon. If this hit-and-run charge sticks, he loses his medical license. He loses everything he has worked his entire life for, all because Curtis Ashford couldn't mind his own business and let the actual detectives do their actual jobs. The injustice of it all is just making me want to throw my remote at the television. The fans on social media have been screaming about this for weeks because we all know who the real culprit is. We all know who actually caused that crash. Brooklyn Quartermain. Yes. Let's talk about Brooklyn for a second, because the contrast here is making me physically ill. While Portia is losing her baby, while Isaiah is rotting in a cell for a crime he didn't commit, what is Brooklyn doing? She's having a nice little adoption strategy session with Alexis Davis and Harrison Chase. She's sitting in a comfortable room sipping coffee, talking about how to pull strings to adopt Phoebe. She's living her life. She's building her family, all while her secret, her lie, just destroyed another family. Brooklyn is the one who hit the guardrail. Brooklyn is the one who kept driving past the crash site. She is the reason Jordan was injured. She is the reason Curtis went on a witch hunt. She is the reason Isaiah's car was scrutinized. And she is the reason the cops burst into that restaurant. The butterfly effect of Brooklyn's lie is just staggering. It is absolutely staggering. And the craziest part is that she is married to a cop. Chase is literally a police officer. If he finds out that his wife is the hit-and-run driver, and that her silence put an innocent man in jail and caused Portia to miscarry, their marriage is going to explode. It is going to be nuclear. And I know Brooklyn feels guilty. We have seen her looking all anxious and guilty over Isaiah's legal troubles. But feeling guilty isn't enough anymore. It's just not. A woman lost her baby because of this lie. How is Brooklyn going to live with herself when she finds out what happened to Portia? When news hits Port Charles that Portia Robinson collapsed during Isaiah's arrest and miscarried, Brooklyn's guilt is going to be astronomical. It is going to eat her alive. And it should. Honestly, it should. She needs to come clean. She needs to walk right into the PCPD, look Dante or whoever in the eye and confess. But will probably not. The writers will probably drag this out for another 3 months while Isaiah suffers and Portia plots her revenge on Curtis. And what about Curtis? What happens when Curtis finds out he was wrong? What happens when the truth comes out that Brooklyn was the driver and Isaiah's parking blunder really was just a parking blunder? Curtis is going to have to look in the mirror and realize that he killed his ex-wife's baby. I mean, indirectly, yes, but he set the chain of events in motion. He pulled the alarm. He weaponized Ada Justin Turner. The blood is on his hands, and Portia is never ever going to let him forget it. The resentment she feels right now is going to harden into something so toxic, so dangerous,